Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The committee met on February 26th. All committee members were present. We also had Mr. Allen and Mr. Bonfils joining us remotely, which is welcomed. We had two action items to review and discuss. The first was the resolution of intent to revise certain rates for the Goose Creek Industrial Park. Some of you, I don't know if any of you may be here, we saw that park years ago on a tour during one of our retreats. It's off of Cochrane Mill Road. It's a small, fairly small park, 18 lots. I think we heard that 12 of those lots were improved. And what's going on is the wastewater treatment plan that's on site has come to the end of its useful life. And it's decided that since the central system is now close by, that it would be wise to hook up to the central system. So decommissioning of that wastewater treatment plant that's on site and startup of the new pump station will be complete by mid-year this year. Currently, the residents there, each site connects are unmetered and pay the flat rate of $300 a month, and each lot is assessed a quarterly capacity reservation fee of 30 cents per gallon per day of allotted capacity. The reservation fee supports the O&M expenses of the treatment plant. With the decommissioning and transfer of the flow from Goose Creek Industrial Park to the central system, capacity reservation fee assessment will no longer be required, and the effect of these changes, new or modified sewer connections in the park will be required to have meters installed. Current residents, now existing customers, may voluntarily complete this process as well. The committee moved the recommendation to the full board to adopt the resolution of intent to revise the user rates. We just moved that to the consent agenda. Public hearing is set for April 10th, right after our board meeting in April at 5 p.m. to present the proposed rates to all interested parties and advertise the proposed revision as required. The second item that we discussed, it's kind of interesting, was an administrative update to the rates, rules, and regulations for the prohibition of lead water service connections. And in December 3rd, the Water Resources Committee meeting, staff presented the results of Loudoun Water's lead and copper rule revisions compliance efforts. That presentation confirmed that Loudoun Water has completed a comprehensive inventory of all service lines and has verified that its central system, community systems, and contract operated facilities are 100% free of lead service lines. The reason for this change is it brings us in compliance with the Safe Drinking Water Act. So we don't have much of a choice. We have to comply with the Safe Water Drinking Act. So currently we're clean. We don't have any issues. But as the committee discussed, in the future there could be a private system somewhere down the road or something like that, so that it's a possibility that there may be someone wanting to hook up that may have lead in the pipes. So this brings us into compliance, as I said, with the Safe Drinking Water Act, and we have the right to refuse water service in a connection that poses an unacceptable risk to our system. Let's see what else here. So the committee approved the change and moved that to the full board for approval. And that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Excellent report from both of my committee chairs. Consent agenda. Someone make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm
Aye.
taking that. Aye. Oh, we have Mr. Bonfils,
Mr. Bonfield.
a voice from above. There is no action agenda. No new business, no information items. So we're on to monthly quarterly reports. Combined capital construction quarterly report, fourth quarter 24 change order report, and 2024 by Mr. Zafel and Mr. Flores. They look so close right there sitting with each other.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Good afternoon. It's a privilege to come before the board to provide an encore presentation to our CIP committee meeting quarterly report for the fourth quarter of 2024. I'll probably start by acknowledging that we are speaking about the fourth quarter here in March. And that's by virtue of some slippage on the typical committee meeting schedule. Rick and I will shortly start working on the Q1 report to provide for the committee here in April. But in fairness to keeping that one interesting, we will stay faithful to the reporting timeframe and avoid any spoilers, as it were, for what's gone on during the past couple of months here. The agenda will include project snapshots, brief reports on the lab HVAC project at Broad Run, followed by the water booster station improvements at Dulles South, a little bit of a deeper dive on the Milestone Reservoir and Pump Station project, followed by Mr. Zapfel's presentation on the Broad Run Phase 2 expansion, and then lastly, some quarterly report facts and figures for Q4 of last year. Broad Run Lab HVAC improvements projects was awarded in the spring of last year. Contractor is FH Passion. It was a timely award for this contract as we are able to sort of achieve all of the necessary improvements by the next heating season here approaching us in the summer. Thankfully, the project is going well. It's on schedule and within the budget. And what's interesting about this one is that the challenges that sort of drove the execution of this project were both reflective of the project scope, but also of some new, I'll say, faults and malfunctioning equipment that we've discovered during the execution of the project. And I think the project team has done a great job of incorporating additional improvements to add value to this project and take care of these additional items while remaining within the project schedule and budget up to this point. So kudos to the staff for, if I may say so, right, for reacting to these challenges and really making sure that the end product does as much as it can to ensure that we can improve the conditions at the lab here. The next project I'll speak about is, I'll present on is Dulles South Water Booster Pump Station upgrades. This one also started in the spring of last year. It's scheduled for completion around the fall of this year. On schedule so far, a little bit of a slower ramp up for this one due to some longer lead time items and some of the work that we have to coordinate within certain seasonal constraints, but so far proceeding well on schedule and within the approved construction budget. All right, so now we'll kick things off with Milestone Reservoir and Pump Station, that deep dive that I promised you at the beginning. This one, roughly a year and a couple of months in, doing well, right on schedule. The critical path for this project is largely driven by the geotechnical work, the tunneling. And while we have had some challenges in other aspects of the work, we've utilized the float that we have to react to those challenges and make improvements to those design and quality issues. But the overall scope of the project and the overall sort of duration of the project remains as originally specified. So still on track for completion in 2028, around the spring, summer timeframe. We've now, as of the end of the reporting period, excavated all of Tunnel A, and we'll see a little bit more on that in the next set of slides here. We've completed some site improvements, some retaining walls, work on the foundations for the access bridge over Sickle Creek. And, we'll, like I said, we'll leave the rest of the updates on how the ongoing work is coming for our April CIP committee report. But I'll say that things are generally still going very well on this project. Here's some figures on the original contract value and the change order total approved through the end of 2024. In the context of that value, our overall contingency for this project is around $7.25 million. And so, if we extrapolate a little bit, we feel pretty confident that we should be able to complete the work within our contingency amount. 27% spent, over 23% time elapsed. And to echo a response to Mr. Sultan's questions from the CIP committee, the percent spent is reflective of some of that more, I'll say, expensive work associated with heavy civil and geotechnical mining efforts that has largely proceeded on schedule. So that's sort of where that gap is expected to maybe converge as we start work on the pump station construction itself. Any questions up to this point?
Yes, I have one.
Mr. Allen?
So have we purchased all the pipes that we're going to be using in this project?
So if I can venture, I guess, as to where you're going with
Yeah.
this, Mr. Allen.
With tariffs and things like that? And
The only report we've heard from the contractor or the CMAR to date is associated with some potential challenges related to some Canada-sourced formwork for lining the shaft that basically one of the main features of this project that connects all the tunnels, right? And is our means of withdrawal to the pump station. We are working with the contractor. Matter of fact, we have a meeting just tomorrow to discuss what we can do to stay ahead of any incoming tariff-related challenges to perhaps circumvent some of the potential price increases that the CMAR might see from this work and these circumstances. But there are additionally some protections in our contract that would set thresholds that need to be exceeded before we start talking about additional compensation for this work. If it were to escalate beyond those thresholds, we would report back on where we've landed with those negotiations. But so far, I feel like we remain pretty confident that we should be able to work through these challenges. More to come as we engage the CMAR in further conversation about that.
okay, thank you.
So by and large, in the typical categories that we report on every quarter, I'll say things are generally okay with regards to communication, efficiency, coordination with operationals. That's probably more of a factor when we start getting into commissioning during 2027 work. But the rest of the changes and change orders, aside from some, administrative back and forth with the contractor to make sure that all changes are properly justified, by and large, we are doing pretty well in terms of these categories. And so here's a video that I incorporated into this presentation for this meeting. It shows, or for this report rather, it shows the moment of breakthrough at Tunnel A. The portal for Tunnel A is roughly around 100 feet of depth from the top of that shaft for withdrawal to the pump station. And sort of an overview of the projects, the status of dewatering at the quarry, the sort of the overall situation here. Pump station work has yet to really kick off, aside from some stub up of the 42-inch raw water pipes that was sort of started at the end of 2024. So we'll have more to show you on the next report. You see here where the footprint of that pump station will be once it gets started. And then you can sort of catch a glimpse of the permanent bridge there and a little cameo from the GCIP project. So that's my little visual aid for this one. And that's all I've had. So I'll kick it over to Rick for the Broad Run report.
All right, good afternoon. So moving over to the Broad Run Phase 2 expansion here. So these are the numbers through the end of the fourth quarter of last year. These are, in general, the final numbers for the project were at 100% spent. We've reached substantial completion, and then we're in the time period between substantial and final completion here. And just a note there, substantial completion was achieved on November 22nd. That was the effective date of substantial completion. Okay. And then just my colored graphic of the facility here. This is just the view, the completion view of the project there through the end of the fourth quarter. Everything was complete as shown in green, except we did have one portion of our thickening and dewatering building. There was one process that needed a little bit of optimization by the vendor, and the vendor wasn't available until January. So that one was still yellow, but very close to green to the end of last year. Right. And then here's kind of some more final stats on the project here. I'll just call attention to a couple of these here. The contractor's done a great job to hit the punch list items pretty hard here, and they're looking to be on track to finish the project by the final completion deadline, which is mid to late May of this year. And then also 15 change orders. We executed our last change order right there at the end of the fourth quarter. We don't anticipate any more on the project. Okay, and then this is our list of active construction projects through the fourth quarter of last year. On the left there, we've got our time, percent time complete there in the third column. And then on the right, we've got our contract price information in the way of contingency utilized and change order percentages and percent spent. Any questions on any of these projects?
Tackling some administrative challenges associated with some requirements, permitting mainly, that need to be wrapped up here. The challenge to our team is to work with the county to get these permits closed out by the end of March so that we can report final completion in the next report. Mr. Allen. We're anxious to put this one to rest.
Sam, what are the permits? What are we arguing over?
There was some additional inspection notes on the BMP stuff, some of the bio ponds, if you will, associated with BMP on the project, some late adders to that work. And so that extended the time frame for permit approval associated with those features. We've recently wrapped up the work, end of February, beginning of March. And hopefully it's just now an administrative exercise to perform a final inspection and get those permits fully wrapped up.
Was that like third round comment kind of stuff, or when was that?
I don't have all the details in front of me, but it wasn't the first.
Yeah. All right. Well, I might talk to you after. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Okay, we'll move on to the completed projects here. So in the fourth quarter, this roofing project reached final completion, and so this one will drop off the list, moving into the next quarterly presentation.
Also, do want to say, I mean, just a great job on some, I mean, we don't say it, but it's a lot of work bringing all these construction projects online, on time, under budget. So, excuse me. Great job on that. That's not an easy thing to do.
Thank you. And I forgot to say it, but I'll say hats off to the Broad Run Phase 2 project team, the Loudon Water staff, the engineer, even the contractor. It was a great collaborative effort, and I think it's, brought home a very good outcome. So.
Yeah, great job.
I don't have any videos this time. In the future, I might though. So we've got our look ahead here. This is our 2-quarter or roughly 6-month look ahead to construction projects that we anticipate starting Any questions there?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. These are January results, and as you can see at the top, they are draft. So these were reviewed at the Finance Committee. Operating revenues totaled 10.3 million, which was right on forecast. The non-operating revenues are ahead because of the ERCs that we had expected in December that rolled into January. Expenses are slightly higher, but that's just due to timing because we had 3 payrolls in January versus our budget plan, which has them sometimes in February. Capital contributions totaled 32.5 million. Next page, please. There's our ERCs, so that's where you see the red dot. We have made this bigger for you next month, Mr. Buffington, so hopefully you'll be able to see it. So adjusted, we're about right on track with the trend if we back out those 1,400 connections in January. And then next page, we'll show you that they were mostly data center connections. So that's your blue all the way to the right there. And the blue on the bottom is the revenue we received in January. And then final page will be our CIP spend. So as of January, we were at 117% of projection. But we don't, as you can see, there's no budget there. We usually phase the budget into February for the spend for the year. And that's it. Are there any questions?
Do you anticipate, because all the chaos going on, the layoffs and whatever, that our finances are going to be affected, or we don't know yet? New connections, whatever.
I don't anticipate that that will affect us. I mean, people still need water. I don't affect, our investments are pretty stable with what we invest in. So even with the market jumping around, I don't.
I think it's one of the things that we've discussed internally as something we're focused on to monitor going forward. As Sam mentioned, we're meeting with contractors and vendors to hear what they're seeing from their side. I will say most recently for some of our positions, we've started to see folks with federal experience apply that typically we haven't seen. So maybe on that front, we'll see a change. Folks looking for employment coming here, but it is top of mind for us and something that we are keeping a close eye on.
Thank you, Sally. Legislative activity update by Micah Vu.
Good afternoon. Pleased to provide an interim update on our legislative activities. The report that's attached provides the final status for bills working their way through the General Assembly. That session closed down on February 22nd, and we're currently in the period where the governor is reviewing that past legislation and making determinations whether to sign, amend, or veto. So he will have until March 24th to make those determinations, not just for the budget bill, but for all normal pieces of legislation. We will provide a full legislative activities report wrap up at next month's session. And so this is just a single slide. We did want to highlight continuing activity. House Bill 2482, companion legislation, Senate Bill 962, was ultimately passed out of the Senate, is making its way to the governor's office. And we're continuing to engage on this bill. We highlighted this at last month's meeting as well. This puts forth an apprenticeship requirement for complex projects that would be delivered by public bodies. And so VWWA, VAMWA, which are the two associations that we're most active with, have formed a coalition with Rural Water Association, Municipal Drinking Water Association, and the Municipal Stormwater Association to issue a joint letter to the administration seeking exemption for complex projects in that water space. And failing that, this item could be referred to the Public Procurement Study Work Group. Given the delayed enactment clause of July 2026, it does create some space for modification to this bill. So we just wanted to highlight this for you, let you know that our association partners are continuing to work on this issue and that we will have an update next month for the final status, not just of this piece of legislation, but for all bills that move forward. And with that, I'll take questions. Thank you.
All right, make it here in time. Does anyone have any questions? Doesn't seem like it. Thank you. Thank you, Micah. Water Resource Management Monthly Report.
Sorry, excuse me. Anyone have any questions on the report?
How's the flow?
The flow is good. The river flow or the groundwater flow?
River.
The river flow looks good. Yes. We had quite a bit of rain in February. And so you'll notice the drop in the Potomac withdrawal on that graph, that first graph on the report. We like to, because we like to shut down trap rock during episodes of high sediment loading in the river because it helps to cut costs on our solids handling and also preserves the integrity of the pumps.
Thank you.
Do we have any issues at all with ice back a couple months ago?
We didn't have any issues, but we definitely noticed it. And we took all precautions that we could to keep it from impacting us, but it was the first time we've seen that much like ice around our intake.
I didn't think about that. That's a good question. Our intake's not very far below the surface, right?
Right, can be pretty close to the
So a
surface. Yeah.
big iceberg could come down and hit that.
It
Well, is there-
generally
Is there like
stays,
a concrete diverter in front of it so that logs and things get pushed away, right?
yeah, it gets pushed away and
Okay.
and generally you can see where the intake screens are. Those don't get frozen, but we call it frazzle ice. It's like little fingers of ice that come around it. So we did see that quite a bit this year.
And then I don't mean to put you on the spot, but how are we doing? I know, recharge. It seems like we've had a drought, like a consistent drought for years. How did we end 2024? Were we below I think we get 42 inches of rain a year. Are we still trending below?
We are trending below. Overall precipitation in our basin is below. Yes, it's around, I think, 11 inches below.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vega.
With the heavy snowfall, are we seeing any impact from de-icing and salting of roads that VDOT implemented during the two large snowstorms, or is it noticeable or?
It's not noticeable. We didn't notice any uptick in chloride. And so I think everything went smoothly. It seems like the outreach is going well. But we do regionally monitor that. So there is a very active group regionally kind of keeping track of what's going on in that part of Fletcher.
Question.
Sure.
Don't we have a bubbler system around the intake to control?
Yes, which helps. Yes. So we keep that running for the ice and for the sediment. So we love our bubbler system.
All right, anyone else have any questions? Thank you. The last report is water and sewer agreements by Mr. Tran. This is Mr. Vega's report. I'll say that for next, however long I live. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Tran? Let's see it.
You go down to the second page. Yeah, nothing to note regards to the easements and vacations. We just had one developer agreement that had a small amount of reimbursement, and it was actually the first phase got divided up into two phases. So we had to do an amendment for the first phase to reduce the reimbursement amount, and then the second phase had the remainder reimbursement amount, but it's relatively small.
Any questions?
I imagine this still gets very positive feedback from the developers that are upsizing to our benefit.
Yeah, I mean, especially around this time because that's when they get the reimbursement checks. So.
Thank you, Mr. Tran. All right, that concludes the open session portion of our meeting. We do have a closed session portion today. So I thank everybody and get out there and enjoy the nice weather. I don't have my motions with me, so. Yeah, thank you.